Hi, this is Jamie Franklin, curator here at the Bennington Museum, and welcome to another Tour at 10. And today I am standing in front of Calvin Coolidge's Birthplace, which is a painting by Arthur Wilder. And one of the reasons that I've been thinking a bit about this painting is because Bennington Museum is going to be having a major exhibition project next year in 2022 in collaboration with the the Bryan Gallery up in Jeffersonville, Vermont, in the northern part of the state, called Parks and Recreation, which will explore the history and art of the Vermont state parks and forests, as well as the national park system here in Vermont, and the role that it's played in kind of Vermont's identity as a tourist destination, both for its deep history as well as its natural beauty. Arthur Wilder was a painter associated with Woodstock, Vermont, though he had ancestral roots in Plymouth Notch. And Plymouth Notch is probably best known as the birthplace of President Calvin Coolidge, known as the Vermont President. And so Calvin Coolidge was born and raised in the small village of Plymouth Notch in the middle of the Green Mountains, which was kind of thrust into the spotlight when Coolidge, who had gone on to a political career in Massachusetts and was elected as the vice president in 1920. But then he unexpectedly took on the role of the presidency upon the sudden death of President Warren G. Harding in 1923. And in fact, he was sworn into oath on the family Bible by his father in the Coolidge family homestead, which is in Plymouth Notch. There are actually three parks or historic sites associated with Plymouth Notch. There is the historic Coolidge site, which is essentially a preserved 19th century rural Vermont village, which is what this painting depicts. But then surrounding the village of Plymouth Notch is both the Coolidge State Forest, which was originally founded in 1925. Perry Merrill, who was the Vermont State, in charge of the Vermont State Forest Service, with all the interest in Calvin Coolidge during the 1920s, he was developing the state forest system, and they acquired tracts of land surrounding Plymouth Notch and turned it into one of the first major state forests. It's now at 21,500 acres surrounding the village of Plymouth Notch. And then in the 1930s, again, Perry Merrill, who went on to become the director of the Vermont CCC, or Civilian Conservation Corps, they created the Vermont State Park System, or really the CCC helped to build the infrastructure for the Vermont State Park System in the 1930s, which was part of the New Deal during the Great Depression, the WPA. Of course, we had an exhibition on the New Deal in Vermont back a couple of years ago in 2018. And so all of these themes of kind of historic preservation of Vermont's beautiful natural landscape came together in the development of the state park system. And so next year we're going to be inviting, along with the Bryan Gallery, contemporary artists from Vermont and the surrounding region to go experience Vermont State Park System and respond artistically. And we'll also have another exhibition here at the Bennington Museum, our major summer-fall exhibition, Parks and Recreation, which will look at the history and development of the Vermont State parks and forests and national park system, Green Mountain National Forest, and its role in kind of the state's identity associated with tourism and four-season recreation. So Arthur Wilder, he was a painter. He trained in the late 19th century with a number of prominent artists, including Thomas Dewing and George Inness. He was also supported by a patron, Desmond Fitzgerald, who was from Boston, and he was one of the first supporters of the French Impressionists in the United States. And so in the early 19th century, when Wilder met Fitzgerald, his palette started to lighten up, and he was really one of the first kind of major artists to be painting the Vermont state landscape in what I would call an Impressionist style. He was also the owner and manager of the Woodstock Inn in Woodstock, Vermont, and he was taking advantage of kind of the early tourist industry here in Vermont in the 1920s. So the ski industry was just getting underway in the 1920s. And so he often painted kind of snowy landscapes, images that kind of draw on that history and the natural beauty of the area to draw tourists to his hotel. So all of these themes are coming together as I'm working on and researching Parks and Recreation. This is a painting that I've been thinking a lot about. It's right here in our center gallery, so we encourage you to come enjoy it in person, and of course come back again next summer to enjoy Parks and Recreation when it's up here at the Bennington Museum. So thanks very much, and we'll see you at another tour at 10.